This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means? It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Amazon for all your gifting needs.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here from coast to coast. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, as always, text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. You get the podcast, the live stream, the show notes, all the social media links. Subscribe to YouTube, you name it. It's all there. It's time for me to just strike a match. I've been wanting to get this off my chest for some time. There's been a fight to develop between two newer publications of people who branched off from the fall of the Weekly Standard, the Bulwark and the Dispatch, and I've got friends at both. The Dispatch, Steve Hayes and Jonah Goldberg, Trump supporters hate them because they don't like Trump, but they're unquestionably conservative, covering the news from conservatism, calling balls and strikes, and they don't like Trump. I don't like him either. They're not willing to vote for him. Depending on the second of the day, I go back and forth on that myself. I've given him money. I support him. But they understand that there's no reason to vote for Kamala Harris. There are people in the Bulwark, though, and essentially bullying anyone on the right who says they don't like Trump, that you must then support Kamala Harris. No. Y'all, let me just lay all my cards on the table for all of you. I don't like either of these candidates. You may like Donald Trump. I don't. Am I willing to support him? Yes. I've probably given him more money than you have. But I don't like him. I don't think he's a good person. He's cheated on multiple wives, including with a porn star. The only people who believe his denials on that are his cult. I think he's got a cult of personality. There are people who I can spend 3 straight days praising the things Donald Trump has done and then say one critical thing and they email, I can't believe you hate Donald Trump. You should be taken off the radio station. Your wife should die of cancer and it should all be your fault. Screw you people. I don't like him. I'm not going to tell you otherwise. I can tell you I've given him more money than probably 9 out of 10 of the people who email me angrily that I don't like Donald Trump, and so I should shut up and be taken off the radio because I'm not willing to hump his leg like you are, and you've decided everybody else must hump his leg or it's insufficient because you embarrass yourself. You know you've embarrassed yourself, and so as long as you can bully everyone else into humping his leg too, then you can say, well, we're all doing it. We're all in this together. I will not be humping any politician's leg. I find that gross, the cult of personality, and it's the same damn thing on the Democratic side now. All of these people are like, oh, Kamala Harris is the greatest thing. A year ago, you people wanted Joe Biden to ditch Kamala Harris because you know she's a vapid dimwit who's a socialist, who every major policy pronouncement that has been uttered from her lips in the past 8 years has been to the left of Karl Marx. And suddenly you're like, she's a centrist. No, the hell she's not a centrist. She's always been a progressive. She's always campaigned on progressivism. And to hell with you people if you think that I've got to suddenly vote for her to stop Donald Trump. I don't want to vote for any of these people. And the fact that you've got to bully someone into supporting your side makes me more reticent that why do I have to go do it? Someone's got to stand up and say no. Now, the fact of the matter is, I intend to vote for Donald Trump. Why? Because I actually want to stop Kamala Harris. If Joe Biden were still on the ticket, I might have second thoughts about it, as I know plenty of people have. But Kamala Harris really is that progressive. But the Trump administration, the Trump team, the Trump supporters have decided instead of trying to sell Donald Trump to people, they're just going to bully and insult you. Yesterday, Lila Rose, a committed pro-life activist who has put a lot of points on the board for the cause of life, was eviscerated by people as a quote-unquote grifter because she dared to express her outrage about Donald Trump saying he would veto, or J.D. Vance saying Donald Trump would veto a national abortion ban, and that Donald Trump says his administration will be great for women and their reproductive rights, which is the language of the left in support of abortion rights. Now, I'm sorry, but you should probably not be surprised that a committed pro-life activist is upset with Donald Trump for saying his administration will be great for women and their reproductive rights. And the fact that the initial reaction of major Trump supporters was to attack Lila Rose and accuse her of being a grifter, let me tell you what a grifter is. A grifter is someone who's willing to sell out what they claim are their convictions for money. Lila Rose is willing to take the slings and arrows because she's not willing to sell out her convictions. She is definitionally not a grifter. There are accusations online today about a lady named Julie Kelly, and I know some of you know who she is because we've gotten plenty of phone calls. Julie Kelly said, you're wrong because Julie Kelly said. Julie Kelly went on this other conservative talk radio show and said this thing that you disagree with, and she must be right. Turns out she and her husband have been funding Democrats. If the word on the street is true, if the accusations on Twitter, and they appear to have the FEC receipts that she's given money to Biden and Beto O'Rourke and a bunch of other people, it looks like, yet again, people on the right have been played. And this comes up time and time again. People on the right are so willing to be played by the people who tell you what you want to hear. I mean, look at Candace Owens. She is an anti-Semitic nut, but she did Blexit. Oh my gosh, a young black lady. She must be on our side because she doesn't want to be a Democrat anymore. Turns out she wants to be a Nazi. Guess what? She doesn't fit in. I wonder why. The hicks, the rubes, the idiots, the willfully abused on both sides of this situation disgust me. The people who are so willing to say, oh, we have to support Kamala Harris because she's going to stop Donald Trump. You know what? She's an authoritarian. Kamala Harris, did you pay attention to her record as Attorney General in California? You really want me to believe that we have to save democracy by voting for Kamala Harris? If Kamala Harris could get in office and ensure she'd never leave again, she'd do it. Kamala Harris has done nothing but climb the ladder of power since the moment she got up off her knees in front of Willie Brown, to put it bluntly to you. Kamala Harris has just been a social ladder climber her entire time in office. She has climbed as far as she could, and now she's hoping to go to the highest office of the land. She's done nothing in the private sector. She doesn't know jack about the private sector other than flipping burgers at McDonald's when she was in college, and that's not the graduate experience that you would want from a competent person to be president of the United States of America. And you want me to tell me that I've got to side with her to stop this guy you don't like because he's a threat to democracy? You're bullying is a threat to democracy. The idea that I got to stand with you and Kamala Harris to stop Donald Trump is garbage. In the same way you Trump people tell me we got to side with Donald Trump to stop a communist. Nobody believes the communist stuff except the boomers addicted to social media and their kids. There are real reasons to stop Kamala Harris. Instead of attacking pro-lifers, for example, why don't you point out to them, Donald Trump will pardon the people who've gone to jail for praying at abortion clinics who went to jail under the Biden administration. Did you ever stop to think that maybe you could make a persuasive argument instead of just punching everybody? See, the worst thing about Donald Trump, and it is his superpower, is that Donald Trump makes everyone around him behave just like him. Donald Trump throws punches, so all of his supporters decide, you know what, I can throw punches too. I don't have to persuade people to vote for him. I can just keep punching them until they concede and vote for Donald Trump. All that does is build resentment. All that does is build resentment. Both sides have forgotten how to persuade. You've got the bulwark people attacking the dispatch people, saying, we've got to stop Donald Trump. If you're for America, you must be against Donald Trump. No, that is precisely the antithesis of being American, where I can stand up and say, you know what? I don't like either of these people. I might vote for one of them because I prefer his policies more than her, but I don't have to like all of them. I actually think character counts. I still believe character counts. Call me naive, but I would still prefer a president of the United States who's not a serial adulterer or a professional careerist in government who will say and do anything to get elected. Surprise! I guess I'm too old school for some of you. The parties have decided to pick the two worst possible people to be their nominees, and the rest of us are supposed to pick. In 2016, someone said if someone put a gun to your head and said pick between Clinton and Trump, who would you pick? And I said the bullet. And there are days I feel the same way now. Except the tax cuts are going to expire in 2025, and I would prefer not to have my taxes go up. If the Democrats get control of the Senate by just one vote, they really do want to force through ending the filibuster and pack the Supreme Court, and they've got to be made to pay for trying to do that. The Democrats controlling the regulatory state is just a bridge too far for me as they try to push a Green New Deal. So, yeah, I'll hold my nose and vote for Trump. If he loses, I'm sure every single Trump supporter in America will say it was a stolen election. But you know what it'll actually be? It'll be Donald Trump's reaction was to bring in freaks like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. as opposed to putting conservatives on a transition team. Gabbard, I know some of you love that woman. She is not a conservative. I happen to be a conservative. She is not. The Ron Paul people are having a heyday with her. RFK Jr. is a reliable progressive vote, putting people like that in charge of a transition instead of conservatives. He's walked back from Project 2025, denounced the Heritage Foundation, and embraced a guy like RFK who wants gun control and abortions. It's not really a way to sell me on supporting a campaign, even though I know at the end of the day I would prefer his policies more than hers. What has happened to the art of persuasion, and why, for the love of God, is the Trump campaign deciding that they want to try to attract as many fringe elements to the campaign instead of trying to mainstream themselves to more normal Republicans, instead of alienating us by saying, hey, we're going to fund tariffs. Yay, we're going to go back to 1950s Democratic labor policies that the Reagan coalition rejected. Why? None of this makes sense to me. This seems to me to be a campaign that is like live at the Improv, where every 5 minutes they improv something else, like the abortion stance from Donald Trump. I know what he was trying to say is that this is not going to pass at the national level. There's never going to be a prohibition on abortion passed by Congress because you need 60 votes to get it through the Senate. It's not going to happen. You probably can't get a majority of Republicans in the House to even go along with it. So let's leave it to the individual states. And in the meantime, I'll advance a culture of life in Washington, D.C., where I support families. I get out of prison the people who've gone there for praying in front of abortion clinics. And you can make that case. Instead, you decided to get on social media and say, my administration will be great for women and their reproductive rights. And it was stupid. And we shouldn't be afraid to call these things stupid. And yet the Trump campaign, how dare you say that? It's not even the campaign. It's the social media supporters. It's the people who email me and call it angrily. You can't say anything critical about Donald Trump or you're not sufficiently loyal. I have not taken a loyalty test to any political party and certainly not to any politician in America. I've spent 12 years on the radio telling you exactly what I think, and I don't intend to change. And what I also think is you people on the left who think that you've got to bully me and try to shame me into supporting your side, let me tell you about your side. Your side is in the streets chanting death to the Jews while telling us that the anti-Semites are only on the right. You people are out there actually putting up vans to kill children at the Democratic National Convention, telling me it's normal. You're trying to tell us that mainstream loving families are weird and freak shows are normal. You people are putting drag queens and pornography into elementary schools and telling us we're against books if we don't support that. There's no way I'm voting for you. The idea, the audacity of you people to think you're for the end of America if you support Donald Trump. You know what? You're for the end of normalcy, decency, and Christianity if you support Kamala Harris. God's sakes, Barack Obama is the one who sued the nuns to try to force them to perform abortions. And in Illinois, where you had your Democratic convention, they're about to pass a law that would force churches in Illinois to fund abortions as part of their insurance plan. So I'm sorry. You know what you people who hate Donald Trump should do, the ones of you saying you have to support Kamala Harris because Donald Trump is a bridge too far? Instead of yelling at people who don't like Harris, maybe you should yell at the Democrats, tell them to stop being so weird, stop being so far left, stop being so in the pocket of the anti-Semites, of the pro-Hamas crowd, of the abortion crowd, of the trans crowd. But no, you can't do that. You expect the rest of us to surrender our values. So just like the Trump people who hump his leg and want the rest of us to hump his leg so they can't be exposed for their lack of shame, you don't want to be exposed for your lack of shame by surrendering all of your supposed lifelong values to support Kamala Harris. A pox on both your houses. I give up. This whole season disgusts me. The candidates are terrible people. The voters of the parties made that choice. The rest of us have to put up with it. And I'll go support Trump to stop Harris, but I'm not happy about it. And there's no reason for me to have to pretend to be, nor for you for that matter.
Blinds.com Cyber Monday Last Chance is happening now. Don't miss out on up to 45% off site-wide. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can handle everything from measure to your whole home installed for one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 45% site-wide, plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
I feel better now. I don't know about you. The phone number, 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, here's the reality. As I said, I am willing to hold my nose and vote for Donald Trump to stop Kamala Harris because I really do believe she'd be a terrible president, and I do believe that if she wins, the Democrats probably do keep the Senate. And if they keep the Senate, they really will get rid of the filibuster and they really will pack the Supreme Court. And I resent like hell having to vote for Donald Trump to stop Kamala Harris, but I'm willing to do it. But don't make me pretend that I like what I got to do because I wish there was a better candidate. Do I think I'll get good policy out of him? We did his first term. We did his first term. And then, of course, we get gems like this. This is something where you just got to stop and say, at least he makes us laugh, unlike Kamala Harris.
You think of it, 18 months, not one soldier was killed under mine. And I spoke to Abdul. I told Abdul, you can't do that. Can't do it. It's going to be bad, Abdul. And he said, Your Excellency, but why do you send me a picture of my house? Oh, did I send that to you? I didn't. Did I send you a picture? Did I send you a picture? I don't remember that, Abdul.
See, look, I mean, there are these moments where you can't help it. Now, of course, the Democrats have no sense of humor. They're incapable of laughing at this at all. They find nothing Donald Trump does funny. They have to invent stuff to laugh at. Remember the Gorilla Channel? They claimed that Donald Trump was watching. A lot of them fell for it in the White House. They can't acknowledge Donald Trump's sense of humor. I mean, I get lit up by Trump supporters all the time. Oh, all you do is criticize him. I spend lots of time praising him, talking about how funny he is. But the partisans on both sides have no sense of humor when it comes to this campaign. And I'm just so tired of everybody being whipped into existential terror every time that if we don't get it right this time, the country's over. It's what they said the last time. It's what they said the time before that. It's what they said the time before that. It's what they said the time before that. And at this point, I just feel like it's the boy who cried wolf. Also, no country is forever except the eternal one. And I'm just not willing to sacrifice my witness for Christ in order to try to placate people, particularly people who might be coming to faith saying, how can you support a guy like this who's a serial adulterer and swindled people out of money or whatever? And I find the other side detestable. I don't particularly care for him. This is not my heart. It's not my values. It's policy positions that have been foisted on us by the parties. It's not a window into my soul who I vote for. We should get out of that sort of thinking. And, Hillsdale College has actually pointed this out in voting and in the Constitution and how in their free classes we explain how the operations of the government works, that ultimately at the end of the day our elections come down to making decisions put to us by the voters in primaries. It's not some sort of soul-defining, soul-breaking moment. It's just the way the republic works. Don't read more into it than it is. You learn these great things from Hillsdale College. If you go to ericforhillsdale.com, you can subscribe to their great podcast network. You can get Imprimus for free. So much of what you get is free, including the free classes and courses you can take at your own pace from Hillsdale College. You go to ericforhillsdale.com, ERICK. You can also donate a tax-free donation to Hillsdale College, or a tax-deducted donation, and help them expand their mission of free educational materials for K through 12 and college for individuals like you and me. Support their podcast network. It's ericforhillsdale.com, ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. Go build a relationship with Hillsdale College today. Greetings. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I am happy to have you. Oh, the hate mail flow. Actually, most people have been amen. I feel the same way. But yeah, you got the occasional boomer out there who's like, oh, you're just anti-Trump. Yeah, okay. I don't like him. You should be thanking me for saying I'm willing to vote for him. But no, instead you wish to drive me from the airways for saying what most Americans actually think. All right. Mark in Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Great. I just wanted to commend you on what you've been saying. You're not riding the fence, taking the gloves off, and I like that. Myself, I'm not a people pleaser, and I got to the point where I'm 68. I don't care. It's not. I mean, I don't want to make waves or make trouble, but life's too short. But I like what you're saying, and you're doing it from your heart. And I didn't realize also this. I've heard some Christian advertising. This was kind of almost like a Christian station. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I just want to commend you for that, sir.
Well, look, I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know that your station is a faith station that you're listening on down there, but it defines who I am, Mark. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate the encouragement. I don't want to lie to you. I'm willing to be on the team and vote. But I'm just, no, I got to tell you what I believe. That's one of my frustrations so much these days. The amount of grift that's on the right, the number of people who want to tell you what they think you want to hear, and they're willing to turn on a dime. So I as I mentioned, Julie Kelly. Julie Kelly is someone who has been championing the January 6th defendants, and she's been called out as inauthentic for a while now by even some of the lawyers representing those people, but she goes on other conservative talk radio shows. She writes at the Federalist and elsewhere, and there are these accusations that are just kind of exploding all over the place that she's actually given money to Democrats. In fact, there is a story out of the South Cook News from Illinois from yesterday that John J. Kelly, Chandra Curry, and Julie C. Kelly are the three largest Orlando Park donors to the presidential campaign of Kamala Harris. It actually appears that the donation was to the Biden campaign possibly and rolled over. I'm not exactly sure. There are a lot of accusations flowing, and there are so many people on the right these days who are willing to just tell you what you want to hear. That has never been my style. And I'll tell you, my personality has always been when everybody marches in one direction, I tend to dig in my heels and say, this is dumb. And it's just, I'm not a professional contrarian. I actually think too many people these days enjoy being contrarian. I just don't like to go with the herd. And I feel, and it is a feeling, I feel like a lot of people right now are being bullied into supporting one side or the other. There are ways to persuade people to support a candidate without telling them, I'm going to set your house on fire or drive you from your job if you don't do this. And I take this one personally because in 2016, my family was harassed and threatened. When I said in 2016, I wouldn't support Trump. And I have supported him ever since. And yet you still continue to get the bullies and the hecklers and the mob coming after you because you're willing to support, but you're not willing to like grind it out on his leg. I find the whole thing deeply offensive. I find it offensive on all sides, but I can't do anything about the left. What I can do on the right is say there are so many people out there, the Candace Owenses of the world and others who have been telling you for so long what you wanted to hear, trying to cash in and make a lot of money. Charlie Kirk has made a phenomenal fortune running TPUSA, and I don't know of a single point really put on the board persuading college students to become Republicans. And now the Trump campaign has handed the ground game off to his operation, and I'm afraid it's going to be an unmitigated disaster. But you go to Donald Trump and you tell him wonderful things, glowing things about him, and he tends to believe you. And that's why so many people on the right have gotten this way. When you're told what you want to hear, you tend to believe it and you don't question the people. And the left is engaged in the same thing with, for example, Robin DiAngelo, or the white fragility author. I mentioned this yesterday. I think it was the CEO of American Airlines who at one point cited her book. about anti-racism. She's an anti-racism consultant and author. This is from the New York Post today. A complaint filed with the University of Washington and obtained by the Washington Free Beacon outlines 26 examples of alleged plagiarism and white fragility in the white fragility author's dissertation, which was Whiteness in Racial Dialogue, a discourse analysis. Among the examples cited are 2 paragraphs reproduced almost entirely from Northeastern University's Thomas Nakayama, who is Asian American, and co-author Robert Krizik, who is in which D'Angelo fails to provide adequate attribution. Another example in the complaint shows D'Angelo allegedly playing fast and loose with a paragraph written by Asian American professor Stacy Lee at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. In it, rather than clearly delineating that Lee had summarized the work of scholar David Theo Goldberg, the information was presented to appear as though D'Angelo herself was providing the summary. The National Association of Scholars president Peter Wood told the Free Beacon that such a move in academic circles is tantamount to forgery. It's never appropriate to use the secondary source without acknowledging it, and even worse to present it as one's own words, says the ex-Boston University provost. That's plagiarism. On her own website's accountability statement, D'Angelo goes into great detail about how she claims to hold herself accountable in a variety of different contexts when it comes to her business and personal dealings with non-whites. Always cite and give credit to the work of BIPOC people, that is, Black, Indigenous people of color, who have informed your thinking, she writes in a section. When you use a phrase or idea you got from a BIPOC person, credit them. Problem here is that, as Nate Silver noted, it's always the conservatives finding this out. It's always the conservatives, the right, the college student newspapers. It's never the National Press Corps. Robin DiAngelo has been elevated to a large platform where she makes millions of dollars in speaking fees to tell white people that they're racist and they can be allies. You know, there is a deviant phenomenon. There are people, I've seen the TV show, what is it, Billions? What is it, Philip, that show that you got me watching, Billions, the very first episode? The lawyer, the U.S. attorney, he's paying some woman to beat him. It's like a sexual experience, to be beaten. This is apparently what some people wish to have done to them, is to be beaten as part of some fulfilling experience. And there are good white liberals, awfuls, the affluent white female urban liberals, who pay people money to tell them that they are racist, but they can be allies. It absolves them of their sin. It allows them to pay money to be forgiven their sins. It's no different than what the Catholic Church back in the day did to build St. Peter's. Getting people to pay money and they would be forgiven their sins. It's exactly what the secular religion of the day is doing with books like White Fragility. And it's a con job. Remember, it was the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture that put on the con job about white culture and assumptions of whiteness. And these are what they listed: rugged individualism, family structure, the idea of a nuclear family, the idea that children should have their own rooms and show independence. Emphasis on the scientific method is whiteness. Objective, rational, linear thinking, cause and effect relationships, quantitative emphasis, that's white supremacy. An emphasis on history, a heavy focus on Western history in particular, Judeo-Christian traditions, is whiteness. The idea of a Protestant work ethic. If you don't meet your goals, you didn't work hard enough, that Protestant work ethic, that's whiteness. Religion is whiteness. Status, power, and authority are whiteness. Following time and the desire to be on time is whiteness. Planning for the future is whiteness. Aesthetics based on European culture, whiteness. Holidays based on the Christian religion or based on white history and male leaders, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, 4th of July, that's whiteness. Justice, the idea of justice based on English common laws, whiteness. The idea of competition is also whiteness. The desire to be number one, the desire to win, The desire of to control nature, the decision-making processes, that's competition, and that is whiteness. And communication is whiteness, the King's English rules, the written tradition, avoiding conflict, refusing to show emotion, being polite to people is whiteness. Now, here's what you need to know. This idea of white-dominated culture, actually, the reason that these things are dominant in the United States is a lot of it comes from, well, the Pilgrims and the people who came here and founded the country. And they are the institutional, foundational ideas of the American people who were here before America was a nation, that rugged individualism and autonomy, the Protestant work ethic, a belief in God, all of these things, a Western civilization. We are part of Western civilization. We're not part of Eastern civilization. But the Smithsonian decided to push these out as symbols of whiteness. Do you know where they come from? They're actually come from a couple of scholars who admit that there's no basis for saying them. They just felt like describing them as white. But you see, you can't say that because one of the things they emphasized here is that emphasis on the scientific method is whiteness. So you can't say, look, this stuff is made up. Well, that would be whiteness. To claim that something is made up is whiteness. There's no win here. And so Robin DiAngelo can grift, she can plagiarize, she can get away with stuff by the left because she has absolved the left of their sins. It's so much of what's happening right now, whether it's the diehard committed only Trump can win supporters, or the diehard support of people like Robin DiAngelo, or the trans movement, or the diehard Kamala Harris is a hope and change candidate people. They remind me of that woman who was talking, I played the audio a couple of months ago, about parents who allow their children to be surgically altered to transition. That they'll be like the Japanese on the islands after World War II is over and they still have to fight. Because they have turned their lives over to a cause that now defines them, and they can never then admit the cause was a scam. If, for example, you have allowed your child to be physically, permanently altered and sexually and surgically mutilated in the name of transing your kid, you can never come to terms with the fact that it was wrong. You'll always have to dig your heels in and say you were right, because otherwise you'll have to acknowledge your child abuse. The people on the left who've gone down this road of racial awareness in the country that includes systemic racism in the country, and the founding of the country was racist, and the 1619 Project, they're never going to be able to admit that they were wrong about that because they've dug their heels in so much. They've developed a mythology that others have followed, and so they would have to admit they lied and duped a whole bunch of people and were themselves played. But they've gotten their credibility and stature through these lies. They'll never be able to walk it back. But the rest of us should regularly be able to point out these people are scammers, they're hucksters, they're frauds, and they're grifters, and they've taken in a lot of white people, upper income suburban white people who want to feel good about themselves, and they want to have a religious experience without ever having to dare even try to touch Jesus. Now, let's move on. Americans for Prosperity want you in the game. They want to train you to be able to go door to door to advocate for common sense conservative solutions to your neighbors. They're actually out trying to make sure people are registered to vote and people know how to get absentee ballots. If you want to be part of the movement to help the right win in November, there are many things you can do. One of them is sign up for AFP. They'll give you the issues. They'll give you the resources. They'll give you the facts. They'll give you the training. Go to AmericansForProsperity.org. They've got chapters in almost every state in the nation right now. They would love to have you on their side. All you have to do is go to AmericansForProsperity.org today. Sign up with AFP. They'll make you effective as an advocate for free markets and free people. They'll make you an effective advocate for school choice and for families, for securing the border. They'll give you the data, the information, the knowledge to be able to explain to your friends and family why common sense conservatism is the right path for this country. And they can also turn you into an activist, and you can build some sweat equity, knocking on doors, persuading your neighbors, making sure people are signed up to vote in November to be engaged in the process. Go to AmericansForProsperity.org today and sign up. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. Kamala Harris appears at the top of North Carolina's presidential ballot, and Donald Trump is second from last. Turns out that the head of the elections division's teenage daughter Picked ballot placement. According to the North Carolina statutes, the state board is required to randomly determine the order by drawing names out of a hat, and they let the daughter do it. And so people are claiming there was some nefariousness in how it was determined because of the random nature. I don't know that that's actually there was some plot there. You've got Republicans and Democrats alike who watch it. But yeah, people are like, why is Kamala Harris at the top of the ballot and why is Donald Trump at the bottom of the ballot? And of course, these days, if it looks suspicious, it is automatically treated as suspicious. You know, we've still got a whole lot of other stuff that we got to talk about. But before I get to that, there's a guy named Will Stansel. Will Stansel is one of those Poindextery types in Washington, D.C. and New York who examines people's habits, and he appears not to be married and have kids. And so he does not believe that people actually shop with a grocery list and buy the same thing every week and therefore are aware of their price increases. I don't know about you all, but I use a grocery list my wife gives me the grocery list. I actually use an app called AnyList on my phone, and I type in my wife's handwritten grocery list. My wife is a technophobe. She wants a piece of paper. I want my phone. And it sorts the groceries into the aisles in order in the grocery store. So it's quick. I am in and out unless, God forbid, I get recognized and somebody wants to talk to me about politics. But we buy the same stuff every week. I am very mindful of the prices. This guy is one of those people who tends to do the big thinking in Washington and New York and doesn't apparently understand how people in the real world do their grocery shopping. I don't know a parent, particularly if you're on the Dave Ramsey model. I don't know a parent who doesn't do a grocery budget and a list for groceries and buys the same thing every week if they can. You know, CNBC is reporting today there's been a surge in sausage, which tends to be a hallmark of a coming recession as people having protein in their diet are switching from bacon to ground sausage because it's cheaper, and the middle class is starting to slow down on its spending. That the increase in sales of breakfast sausage at the grocery store and ground sausage tends to be an indicator of a recession, and we're starting to see that now. Why? Because people have grocery lists and pay attention to costs, unlike what the Poindexters would have you believe.